Welcome back to part two. Alan Kelly is still here despite my threat. Well, I'm going to carry out my threat to show a particular goal in a particular FA Cup semi-final from 1993. He's still there. Alan, that's brave of you. Thanks very much. You always were a good sport. James Gregg joins us as well. He's got a little bit more live sport to discuss than he had previously. Alan, do you know, the very first match that I remember sitting down to watch on television with my father was the 1964 FA Cup final at Wembley between Preston North End and West Ham United, and your dad was playing in that, was sadly on the beaten team. What a game it was, 3-2.
Absolutely, yeah. It was, and all the World Cup winners to be were in that side, weren't they, for West Ham with Bobby Moore and Peters and what have you. And up there, that's up the top there is my old man with Alex Dawson, George Ross, and my dad there. And that's me. You can just about see it. I think I'm 3 days old. So, you know, talk about being born into football. That was 4 years after the FA Cup final. So, you know, surrounded by people like that and players like that and characters was, again, very privileged.
Absolutely. Alex Dawson, I think, scored in that game. Ronnie Boy scored. Yeah, he did, didn't he? Ronnie Boy scored. I'm showing the age. Let's get off this subject very, very quickly.
Come on.
James Gregg is a Blades fan. He's calmed down a bit since last week, James. Yeah?
I think so, just a little bit. Yeah, I mean, I thought we weren't going to go there this week, but you know what?
No, not really.
Yeah, I think I have, and I think social media seems to have a little bit. Despite what you may read, I think we discussed this, didn't we, a little bit? And I think a few people have pointed out on Twitter, there's a few of these fake accounts flying about and whatnot, all sort of backing up the prince, and you click on them and they've got no followers and that kind of thing. I think that probably tells you all you need to know. So all born in the last sort of 2 or 3 years, these accounts, which is always interesting. So, yeah, that always makes me chuckle. But anyway, we'll move swiftly on from that, Alan, if he's still there.
Yeah, I am still there.
Look.
I disappeared briefly. Goalkeepers go walk. Hey, goalkeepers could go walkabouts too, Alan, at times. What do you make of the way we touched on it briefly in part one? That not only has the role of goalkeepers changed in terms of the fact they're expected to be good footballers as well, but that means that surely goalkeeping coaches have had to adjust their tactics accordingly, and you'll have had to have learned how to play football, Alan.
Well, yes, absolutely. If you can play on Sheffield United's pitch way back in the day, then you can play on anything. So, you know, it was, yeah. I mean, I'm a coach educator as well with on your UEFA A license with coaches. So it's coach the coaches. So it is a totally different being to what it was. It's totally transformed because, you know, you're coaching your goalkeeper to be an 11th outfield player, as well as being the primary job of keeping the ball out the back of the net. You know, so, you know, a goalkeeper in a game can average anywhere between 40 and 50 touches of the ball. And when you think that the ball's going to play 60-odd minutes, you know, of actual game time, it's a lot of possession or a lot of actions that the goalkeeper has to deal with. So with that, it has to become a better coaching, more information, tying it all in with the manager's plan and other coaches. So it's many strands to it now.
Yeah, a better technician, as you would. I'll get you onto the subject of the two Sheffield club goalkeepers, because that's quite an interesting one. And I don't know if you've got any observations. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday have had 3. None of the 3 have managed to sort of hold it down, whether it be for injury or loss of form. Joe Wildsmith, Cameron Dawson, of course, Kieran Westwood, who you know. I don't know if 36 is old for a goalkeeper. It probably isn't that in Kieran Westwood. But the other 2, my impression is that one of the 2 needs to step up now and really show it on a consistent basis. What do you make of them?
Well, you sometimes what happens is, especially in a younger goalkeeper, is that your pressure to perform, you know, is generated by maybe, you know, you don't have a great performance and the manager puts somebody else in. So then they think they've only got 1 or 2 matches to perform. So they feel put added pressure onto themselves. And it's it's a vicious circle. You know, like you said before, sometimes maybe, you know, sticking with one for a length of time that allows them to have a bit of confidence to build a performance, because you've got to also build in the fact where Sheffield Wednesday are at the moment. You know, they're at the bottom reaches of the league, so that's more pressure. So, you know, all this on a position where you have to be perfect. You know, if you make one mistake, invariably it ends up in the back of the net. So, you know, put all those factors in together, and it can create uncertainty. It creates, you know, variations in performance, and have an effect on the goalkeepers, whether you're 36 or 26.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens there. Westwood's out of contract, and the other two, I think, are still in contract, and we'll see where that goes. But Sheffield United, you talk about having a prolonged run in the team. There were plenty of critics of Aaron Ramsdale following his arrival for a big fee at Sheffield United from Bournemouth. Chris Wilder stuck with him, believed in him, and he's come through a rocky spell quite impressively. What are your observations on him and your thoughts on him?
Well, I mean, it's character, isn't it? You know, the thing about Aaron that people forget is that I talked before about doing the hard yards. You know, he went down to Wimbledon, he went out on loan, he got his grounding, then he was shot into the team at Bournemouth in the Premier League, and ended up at Sheffield United. And just as the turn of COVID kicked in and everything else that went with it. And for a goalkeeper, a young goalkeeper to shoulder, again, I talk about the responsibility, the scrutiny. And the other thing about now is that you are observed from every conceivable angle, you know, and there's a multitude of people want to give their opinions about it. So, as Greg said, it generates traffic. It generates, sorts of conversations that could err on the side of negative. But to be fair to him, he's kept his silence. He's worked hard with Darren Ward, the goalkeeping coach there. He's just applied himself. And then you've seen performances build and build and build and build because he had the trust of the manager. And the manager kept him.
Interesting now, though, that Darren Ward is among the latest departures from Sheffield United. Matt Prestridge as well. And Darren Ward has gone. So, that's an interesting dynamic that Ramsdale's going to have to find somebody else.
Absolutely.
But he's coming forward, hopefully.
Well, hopefully, he's gone through a period where, people were having a go at him and people were questioning and what have you, and he's come out the other side of it. So he has that strength of character to deal with that. Obviously, when you change a coach, you might change a methodology, you might change a style of coaching, but he'll have a system now, and he's had that experience now and built that amount of experience behind him where he can say, well, this works for me, this because it transfers onto the pitch now, and it'll be a discussion. Again, most coaches nowadays, they don't go in and say, this is my way. They look at the goalkeepers that they're working with, 1, 2, 3 or 4, and tailor things to each individual goalkeeper. So, hopefully whoever does go in there, and it's a shame for Darren because he's been a fantastic servant for Sheffield United, and deserves a hell of a lot of credit for bringing the goalkeepers through there. And, but I think Aaron now has got the experience where he'll be able to ride that and hopefully take ownership and belief of that and carry on moving forward.
Good. Hopefully there won't be as many glitches as I'm hearing on the line with these Zoom shows that we're doing at the moment. We're going to take all of us back, apart from one person, because I don't think, James, Greg, you remember 1993, do you?
No, I wasn't born, actually. Sorry, lads. I'm not taking any pleasure in reminding you of that either.
Right. Okay. That was the answer I expected. He's heard of the game that we're going to talk about because it's gone down in Sheffield folklore. And do you know, Alan, I'm not doing this to embarrass you. Honestly, I'm not. But in tribute, really, to a great player across the other side of the city. I don't think even you would begrudge him that. When people talk about Chris Waddle and Sheffield Wednesday, that part of his career, they automatically remember and refer to one moment and one special goal. And I think there's some reflected glory in it for you, because if it hadn't been a special goal, a decent goalkeeper would have saved it. And this very good goalkeeper didn't save it. 1993 FA Cup semi-final, Sheffield Wednesday against Sheffield United. And if I say 92 seconds.
Yeah, well, my diesel wasn't quite warmed up, I think. But no, listen, walking out that tunnel and seeing 80-odd thousand people from Sheffield, red and blue, and then 90 seconds later picking a ball out the back of the net. It wasn't quite written in my script that I had in my head walking up that tunnel out into the pitch at Wembley. But I think, as you said, for me, looking back on it, the quality of the strike, the way himself and John Sheridan, worked between them to engineer it, and just, I think if you ask Chris, he'll say he could do it every day of the week, but he just stepped up and hit it as sweetly as you're going to get it, and I knew straight away I was in trouble. I knew straight away. So that's,
Let's have a look at it and reflect on it. This was the moment.
Makes his way to the edge of the area, moving up and down, and he's followed by Dean everywhere he goes. Viv Anderson's come up on the near side as we look. Chris Waddle, is he going to have a crack? Oh, he does, and he scores! Anything Paul Gascoigne can do, Chris Waddle can do. Alan Kelly beaten before he touched the ball. It's happened again in a Wembley semi-final. Clean strike, curling away from the goalkeeper. Sheffield Wednesday had the lead, and we've barely played a minute and a half.
If you look at it and you think about, was the two in the wall, was the one in the wall? John Gannon was there, I think, with Mitch Ward. One goes off, but he steps up and he hits it. And what I remember is the sound. It was a boom. And as soon as it left it, and it was travelling away from me to my left-hand side, and I just knew I was in trouble. And I was praying it was going to hit the post, but it nestled just in the side netting. And, what a start for Sheffield Wednesday, 1-0 up after 90 seconds. And you looked at my face when I'm walking back, the camera went on to me, throwing the ball back, and I'm walking to the edge of the 18. I've just gone stone cold, because one bit of advice, again, for goalkeepers, players, or everybody, is that, you can't turn the clock back. Once you've made something's happened in a game, something's happening in life, you can't turn the clock back. None of us can. And that was that veil coming down to say, right, no more, and obviously tried my best after that to try and get some sort of result for Sheffield United.
When people pundits deliberate on goals like this, there's often a discussion. Do you think he should have saved it? Could he have done better there? Or is it simply sometimes that a strike is just too good?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, my style of coaching is to say, what did you do well first and foremost? Whereas a lot of punditry nowadays is what they can't do, what they didn't do well. I prefer to look on the positive side of it, and you'll find that, you might, out of 100%, you might do 80% well, but people concentrate on the 20%. And, as I said to you, straight away, the boom of this shot leaving Chris Waddle's foot, he knew he'd struck that as sweetly as he has possibly hit any ball in his career, and that says something for the career that Chris Waddle had. And I think you might say, I might say that, but I think it takes away from Chris, the quality of the strike and the free kick. Unfortunately, I was on the end of it, or some would say I wasn't on the end of it, and we ended up 1-0 down.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, there's a lot of analysis now, which is obviously in slow motion. And it's like anything. It's like if you're watching the cricket and someone drops a catch, it makes you look like a mug. And the ball's coming down, and the just see, and you think, you can see it, and you can always feel it happening. And I sometimes think that with the goalkeeping, don't you? They'll strike one, and it looks like it's sort of set off 5 seconds later. And actually, it's just reaction time. And I think a lot of people are so unkind on the goalkeeping, and that must be slightly frustrating when you've got 3 strikers sitting there on a match of the day in Lineker, Shearer and Wright, all ripping a goalkeeper apart. So it must be slightly frustrating for a goalkeeper, Alan.
The thing I'd say to you as well is you've probably got under 1 second to pick up the speed of the ball, the flight of the ball, in the direction of the ball. You've got 1 second. So, and when someone hits it as sweetly as that, if you know your stuff, you'd know sometimes you want not going to get near it, and that was the one occasion. Unfortunately, it happened to be on the biggest stage, in probably one of the biggest games in Sheffield United's history at that time, and it was 90 seconds into that semi-final. If you're positive, which I am, it gave us a lot of time in the game to get back into it, which we did through Alan Cork. So, it's how you look at it and how you reflect on it and how you move forward with it.
which you certainly did in your career, distinguished career with Sheffield United, Blackburn Rovers, Republic of Ireland. Come back to you in a moment. James, look, I know that you have spent most of this week on a golf course. You must have.
Yeah, and we're only recording this on Tuesday. Sorry, viewers, to spoil that illusion for you. But yes, a large proportion of it. And it's not just golf courses, it's tennis courts. It's, the Lido. Not that there's many in the Sheffield area. And it's not that the weather really lends itself to outdoor swimming. But look, there's, it's been great, actually. And I think we've been lucky with the weather, obviously, this week in Sheffield. And, usually you think it's sod's law, everything opens up. But look, it's great. It's great. And I think it's good also to see people back on football pitches playing six-a-side. I'm in a little WhatsApp group for six-a-side. And for me, it was a toss-up. Can I go to work, play golf and play six-a-side? Not reasonably, no. But look, it's great. And I think it's so important. I know you and I, Alan, share kind of similar views on this kind of stuff. And I think it's really important. And also, bit of professional cricket back as well. I can't believe it. A bit of warm-up cricket, some first-class cricket matches taking place as well. Yorkshire had their usual sort of one-day warm-up against Leeds MCCU at Headingley this week. The Sharks basketball's continuing. I've got a few of my mates who've been tuning into that avidly on a Friday night. They did lose the 6th in the BBL though at the moment. And also some good news on the golfing front as well, because there's 3 Yorkshire players, all from Sheffield actually, who have made the GB and Ireland team to take on the United States of America in the famous Walker Cup. It's like the Ryder Cup for amateurs. And they are Alex Fitzpatrick, brother of Matt, Barclay Brown, also from the Hallamshire Golf Club, and a lad called Ben Schmidt from Rotherham. So it's, we talk about in cricket, don't we? Strong Yorkshire, strong England. Well, you could say strong Yorkshire, strong GB and I in the golf as well. So that's what we like to see, a bit of positivity. So golf, tennis, bit of six-a-side football opening, and some good news all round. So that's what we like.
Yeah, and World Championship snooker. It's going to have an audience, a crowd at the Crucible. And there's a qualifier in Sheffield coming up between Stephen Hendry and Jimmy White. That's one to eagerly await as well. Alan, let's go to Everton and your role there. And it's like a Sheffield United reunion there, isn't it? Yourself, Jamie Hoyland, who's been on this show a couple of times, David Unsworth. Three ex-Blades in the back room there.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you're saying, it's we talk about the golfers and snooker, what have you, and it's a fabulous place. It really is to work. I was again fortunate to follow in my father's footsteps because he was one of the first goalkeeping coaches for Neville Southall back in 85, 86. And to be working there now, as you say, I went in as 23s with Unzi and Jamie was there as well. So it's great to have familiar faces. Great that you've got a shared connection through Sheffield United, and now to be working for Carlo Ancelotti and the team there is another, experience that, literally money can't buy.
Well, neither could money buy Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I would have thought there's another Blades connection. What a sensational time he's having.
Yeah, wonderful. I mean, coming out of the academy there, I think Jamie was his coach at Sheffield United, and both Jamie and Unzi, I think, were instrumental in bringing him to Everton, and it was fantastic that you got a player or having the sight to see somebody in the future to what they would turn into. And if you look at Dominic now and, the amount of goals and the way that he dominates the front line and, the way how hard he works, how his application, he's scoring goals for England. It's a fantastic story, isn't it? It really is a story of somebody working hard, getting a dream move, and then fulfilling that potential. And then when you see it on the big stage of England at Wembley, getting a couple of goals the other night, it really is. It's fantastic, and it's all down to him and the coaches and the manager in terms of playing him and getting the best out of him.
And finally, from a personal perspective, with big tournament action coming up for England, how comfortable is it for you to watch your goalkeeper, both for club and country? I mean, can it be, you're obviously rooting for him, you want him to do well, you probably feel personally any criticism that he takes. So how is that relationship and how does it feel when you watch it?
I think it's like a duty of care, isn't it? Really, you know, it's that you might say I'm an elder statesman in the goalkeeping arena, having been around for over 35 years. So I've probably been through every experience that any of my goalkeepers have been through. I've probably been through the ups and downs, you know, both internationally, Premier League, and in the Football League. So to have that, I think for them to have that, that I have empathy with them in terms of if something happens, but also then a memory bank of situations of how we can overcome things or how we can improve or what type of training, or, you know, it's been able to bring that experience, put it in context to what they need as individuals, and then seeing what they do with it, you know, because they're all individuals, they're all different types of goalkeepers, you know, but ultimately, and I go back to this one, it is being the last line of defence. It's knowing that the pressure is that one error, that one misjudgment might cost you a goal, and it's managing that pressure, and it's managing that expectation of fans and everybody else around it. You know, you stay tight, you stay together. That belief I said about Jack Charlton, you know, that trust and that belief, I have that 1,000% in the goalkeepers I work with.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Alan. It's been wonderful giving you your time. And I mentioned how good an ambassador you've always been for Sheffield United, as well as a very fine ex-player. And I remember that personally because you took time out to present trophies at my son's football team annual presentation when he was about 11 years old. And things like that don't go unnoticed and are always remembered, and much appreciated. They really are.
Very kind.
Thank you. And James Gregg, it's great that you've got something to say after all these weeks of lockdown, and we'll come and bring you another show quite shortly. But meantime, special thanks to special guest Alan Kelly, and good night to you, and thank you for watching. See you soon. Bye-bye.